Ravi was a young man from the humble village of Banapur, a place surrounded by golden fields, dusty lanes, and simple people whose hearts beat in rhythm with the earth. Unlike the rest of the villagers who valued hard work, kindness, and respect, Ravi had developed a reputation as the village joker. Not the kind who makes people laugh with them, but the kind who makes people laugh at others. His humor was sharp, biting, and often cruel. So every morning he walked through the village square with that smirk of superiority, his eyes scanning for the next person to mock. He took pleasure in teasing the old fruit seller whose hands trembled with age, calling him a Shaky the Banana King. He'd laugh loudly when the school teacher, who was slightly overweight, passed by, calling out, "Here comes the walking chalkboard." To the kids with crooked teeth or mismatched clothes, he made up rhymes so cruel that some of them began skipping school just to avoid hearing them. Even his childhood friends started to grow wary of him, but Ravi believed he was just being funny, that people were too sensitive. "It's just a joke," he'd say dismissively when anyone expressed hurt, waving them off as if their emotions were irrelevant. The elders warned him, saying laughter earned by cruelty is poison, but Ravi rolled his eyes, thinking they were too old to understand humor. Over time, his teasing became habitual. He didn't even think about it. It was almost like breathing. Even weddings, festivals, and temple gatherings were not spared. Wherever joy was gathered, Ravi's sarcasm would slice it like a knife. Yet no one confronted him seriously, because Ravi was clever, quick, and confident. Qualities that made him difficult to challenge. Some tried to ignore him, others laughed nervously, and some simply stayed away. One day, a newcomer named Arjun arrived in Banapur. A quiet man in his mid-30s, Arjun came with little more than a satchel and a warm smile. Rumor had it he was a teacher who had left city life to live simply, and he soon started helping children with studies under the banyan tree. His calm demeanor and gentle words drew people in, especially the younger ones, and even the elders took a liking to him. Naturally, Ravi targeted him next. "Look who it is, the wandering monk. Did you forget your shoes, or are you just too holy to wear them?" he said loudly the first time he saw Arjun. The villagers looked at Arjun, expecting embarrassment or anger, but he simply smiled and replied, "I think the earth likes to feel the souls of the honest." Ravi blinked. That wasn't the reaction he was used to. Still, he kept throwing jabs at Arjun, mocking his clothes, his accent, and even his kindness. But Arjun never took the bait. Instead, he listened. One evening, Ravi passed by the banyan tree and overheard Arjun talking to a group of children. He spoke softly, telling a story about a king who used words as weapons until he found his kingdom empty, for no one wanted to stay where their hearts were bruised. The children were rapt with attention, and Ravi, standing behind a bush, felt something unfamiliar stir within him. Was it guilt? Shame? No, he told himself. It was nonsense. But that night, he couldn't sleep. He kept hearing Arjun's words echo in his head. The next morning, he resumed his routine, needing to reassure himself that everything was normal. He called the tailor's assistant a needle nose and the cobbler a shoe sniffer, and the usual pattern resumed. Yet somehow people had stopped laughing like before. Their eyes weren't amused. They were tired. A few days later, the village announced its annual talent festival, where performances were given in front of the whole community, and prizes were awarded for singing, storytelling, art, and comedy. Ravi signed up eagerly, planning to do a stand-up comedy routine filled with his usual mockery. Get ready to laugh until you cry, he said, boasting. The day of the festival arrived. The village square was decorated with lanterns, garlands, and the scent of sweets in the air. Families gathered, elders sat in the front rows, and children giggled in anticipation. One by one, performers came on stage. Singers, dancers, a young boy who did magic tricks, and even Gita, a shy 12-year-old girl who recited a beautiful poem about her mother. Then came Ravi. He strutted onto the stage, puffing his chest with confidence. He began with some jokes about the village itself, then started targeting individuals. Did you see the way Uncle Mohan dances? It's like a coconut trying to walk. The crowd chuckled weakly. Then he made fun of Gita's poem, saying, "That was so sweet. I nearly got diabetes." There was no laughter, just silence. He paused, confused. Tough crowd. He joked, but the silence remained. Then, to Ravi's surprise, Arjun was invited onto the stage. He hadn't signed up for any event but was requested by the organizers to give a short talk. Arjun stepped up, looked at the crowd, and told a simple story. It was about a traveler who carried a bag of sharp stones. Every village he passed through, he would throw stones at people to get attention. Some people threw them back, others cried, and most walked away. One day, the traveler reached a place where no one reacted to his stones. They simply kept living, caring for each other. The traveler, for the first time, felt invisible. So he sat down, removed the stones from his bag, and listened. At the end, Arjun looked directly at Ravi and said, "Some people think being feared is the same as being respected. But real respect is earned with kindness, not cruelty." The crowd erupted in applause, not just for Arjun's story, but because his words gave voice to what they'd all felt for years. Ravi stood frozen. He felt like every stare was a mirror showing him what he had become. That night, Ravi didn't go home. He sat under the banyan tree, the same one where he'd heard Arjun tell stories to children. He thought about the old man with shaking hands, the children he'd made cry, the friends he had lost, and the laughter he had mistaken for acceptance. When the sun rose, he went to Arjun, not with jokes or sarcasm, but with heavy eyes and a soft voice. "I've hurt so many," he said. Arjun nodded. "Ah, and now you understand. That's where change begins." From that day on, Ravi began to change. Not overnight. He still had moments when sarcasm would slip through, but now he noticed. He apologized. He asked questions instead of assuming. He started helping the shopkeeper in the morning, walking the children to school, and repairing broken things in the village. At first, people were skeptical, but over time, they saw the sincerity in his actions. He learned to laugh with people instead of at them. He performed again at the next village festival, but this time he told funny stories about his own childhood mishaps, poking fun at himself. The crowd laughed freely, joyfully, and afterward, children came up to him, not in fear, but with admiration. "Shh." One boy said, "You're funny, but now you're also nice." Ravi smiled. It was the best compliment he'd ever received. He eventually became a mentor to the very kids he used to mock, teaching them confidence, kindness, and the power of words. He even organized a small community library under the banyan tree, where stories of compassion and courage were read aloud every weekend. Looking back, Ravi often thought about how close he'd come to spending his whole life being the kind of person who confused cruelty with humor. He was thankful for that moment of silence during the festival, that story from Arjun, and the courage it took to face the truth. And while he couldn't undo the pain he had caused, he chose every day to make sure no one else had to feel it again. In time, Banipur remembered him not as the village teaser, but as the man who turned his laughter into light. Create a voice of 1 minute.